church should be in unity. It says, and if any man speak the oracles of God, if any man minister of the ability which God giveth, that God is in all things may be glorified through Jesus Christ, to whom he be praise and dominion forever and ever. So the oracles of God. So when you take this to the law first mentioned, you see Samuel, 2 Samuel, and it says, and the counsel of Ahithophel, which he counseled in those days, as if a man had inquired at the oracle of God. So was the counsel of both David, whatever his name is, counsel of this priest or prophet, both with David and with Absalom. They inquire to hear from the Lord. But if you go to 1 Kings 6 and 5, and against the walls of the house they built a chamber around about the walls of the house round about of the temple and the oracle, and he made chambers round about. Chambers round about. And nethermost chambers was 5 cubits broad, and the middle of was 6 cubits broad, and the third was 7 cubits broad. So these the oracles the 18th year, it is the 18th year of Solomon's reign. He started to build the house of the Lord, which is 18, not is within relationship between this divine order and the olam, the connection of heaven, of the eternal, with a divine order of construction in the earth. After the children of Israel come out of the land of Egypt in the 4th year, 4 always means Messiah, 4 means open door. So in this portal of the 18th year of Solomon, in the 4th year, we're 18 years coming out of, out of 18 years coming out of the land of Egypt in the 4th year of Solomon. I had that reversed, I'm sorry. So it was 418th year. Oh, I read it wrong again. I apologize. 418th year, because the 18th caught my attention. So 404 is always an open door to the physical and to the eternal, or the olam, or in this divine connection. The children of Israel will come out of the land of Egypt in the 4th year of Solomon's reign. So Messiah always represents the 4th year. Over Israel in the month of Ziph, which is the 2nd month, would be I think the 2nd month is Aviv. In the 2nd month, that he become to build the house of the Lord. Which Aviv in Hebrew literally means spring or springtime, which indicates a rebirthing, which is in a lot of cultures, but it's a reviving. It's a revival. It is life being spring forth. Aviv, you look at the barley and see if it's ripe during the time of Passover, and the counting of the Omar. It's the ripening, which is green, of Aviv. It's the ripening of the harvest, which is a portal, springtime. And so it means renewal, fresh start, and rebirth in Hebrew. It means the barley is ripening from the green ears. That's just like I mentioned. In Torah, the word originally refers to the stages in which barley is ripening and forming green ears, because the ripening happens in the early spring. It also became the original biblical name for the first month of the calendar of the Aviv. So Aviv is in the second month. And so that became to build the house of the Lord, and the house which the king Solomon built for the Lord, the length thereof was 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof was 20 cubits in heights, and 30 cubits, and the porch before the temple of the house were 20 cubits length and breadth thereof before the house, and the house made with windows and narrow light, windows and narrow, and against the wall house he built a chamber around about, against the walls of the house round about, both the temple and the oracles. The chambers, this is talking about the holy place and the holy of holies. Oracle means this order is one, is singular. Those things in the temple were sacred, that no one could pass through, not just your commoner could pass through. Those were for the selected priests, or the Aaronic priest or the high priest, to pass through. And he made chambers on both sides, so that nobody entered it through the door, but they entered through these pathways where they would be clean. They would have basins outside. They would clean, and they would dress themselves in their attires, their priestly, before they would enter into the sanctuary. And go behind the things. So everything was done, in these rooms, and outside. Your flesh cannot be exposed in the temple, so there would be no dirt or anything that would come within the temple's floor, on the floor, or any kind of defilements of the earth be within the temple. And the oracles, so they see this as these artifacts were they speak, they testify. The ark of the testimony, they speak, they're lively. This is why I said the breastplate, they're lively, they're alive. They speak the testimony. It's hidden in a room, dark, or plated with gold, but it testifies. It speaks. It is lively. It contains energy, spirit, and life flows through these artifacts. They are inspired. They speak. They witness, testimony, testify, articles. And he built walls around these things to secure them, to protect them, and to shield them, because they were energetic. They were alive. This is why when Peusa touched it, touched it, they call that place Perusa, but Uzzah touched it. It strike back because it's alive. It responded. It was no longer just a furniture, but and God's presence was not necessarily on it, but it had such an energetic properties to it that it in itself became an object of destruction, a weapon against natural flesh, because these things are spiritual. They become alive. They carry weight with it. It's weighty matters of the law. This is a weightier matter of the law. This is why these things like our human temples, not caring for our human temples and doing wrong by human temples, become weightier matters of the law, because we're energized, we're inspired, we've been breathed upon, the breath of life breathed upon by Almighty God, and made a living soul. And we're energized. We're energetic. We have properties, electrons surrounding our atoms, protons and neutrons and electrons that energize and make alive, breathe upon, inspired by God. And those become the weightier matters, of the law, because these were foreshadows of a temple that was going to be fashioned to be a dwelling place for the Most High. And these were put in the order that they were, and they were secure, and they were held with care. When you hold these things carelessly, then judgment will pass. So you had to handle these things with care and with precision and with wisdom and understanding, knowing that these things, like handling electricity, you don't touch a wire unless you go turn it off by the circuit breaker. You make sure that there is no live wire before you handle electricity. This is exactly the things of God. You don't handle the things of God and the precious things of God and lightly. They are been ordained. They are been fashioned. They're instructed. They have been anointed to do the service of the Lord, to uphold a heavenly calling. It says, do my prophets no harm. It says, touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm. Both in First Corinthians, Chronicles 16:22 and Psalms 105:15. It says, when they were but a few men in number, yea, very few, and strangers in it, when they went for one nations to another, from one kingdom to another, he suffered no man to do them wrong. Yea, he reproved kings for their sake, saying, touch not my anointed, and do my prophets no harm. Moreover, he called for a famine upon the land. He brake the whole staff of bread. He sent a man before them, even Joseph, who was sold for a servant, whose feet they hurt with fetters. He was laid in iron. This is the sufferings of Joseph that he endured, until the time that the word came, and the word of the Lord tried him and proved him, and the king sent and loosed him, even the rulers of the people, and let him go free. He made him lord in his house and rulers of his substance, to bind the princesses of Egypt at his pleasure, and to teach his senators wisdom. And Israel also came out into Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham, and he increased the people greatly and made them stronger than their enemies. And he turned their heart to hate his people, to deeply with his servants. And then he sent Moses and Aaron, whom he had chosen, to show them signs and wonders. He sent darkness and they that rebelled not against his word. And he turned the waters into blood and slew their fish, and brought all these plagues. Do my prophets no harm. And he says, O ye seeds of Israel, in Chronicles 16, the servants, ye children of Jacob, his chosen ones, those who have come under Messiah. He is the Lord of God. His judgments are in all the earth. But ye be mindful always of his covenant, that words which be commanded to 1,000 generations, even of the covenants which were made of Abraham, and of the oath and of his oath unto Isaac, and unto which is the promised seed. And he hath confirmed the same unto Jacob for a law, and for Israel an everlasting covenant, which just Jesus Yeshua has received through the new. This one they broke, saying unto thee, will I give the land of Canaan and the lot of your inheritance, when ye were but a few, even a few, and strangers, and when they were of a nation, and from kingdom to kingdom to another people. He suffered no man to wrong them, and he reproved kings for their sake, saying, touch not my anointed, and do my prophets no harm. Sing unto the Lord all the earth, show forth from day to day his salvation. Declare the glory among the heathens, his marvelous works among the nations. For great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised, and also to be fear above all gods. For all gods of the people are idols, but the Lord made the heaven. Glory and honor are his presence. Strength and gladness are in his places. Give unto the Lord, ye kindred of the people. Give unto the Lord glory and strength. Give unto the Lord the glory due unto him. His name, bring offering and come before him. Worship the Lord in beauty of holiness. Fear before him all the earth. The world also shall be stable, that it be not moved. Let the heavens be glad and the earth rejoice, and let men say among the nation, the Lord reigns. So these things, that the oracles, which is the holy things, which are not just in the holy place, in my opinion, because they become oracles, which are plural. That was one place, the oracle. That Solomon, it says, and the oracles he prepared in the house wherein to set there for the ark of the covenant, which is the holy place of the Lord. And he made it of pure gold, and it's dropped down, and Solomon overlaid within the pure gold, and made a partition by the chains of gold before the oracle, and he overlaid it with gold. And the whole house is overlaid with gold until he has finished all the house. Also the whole altar that was by the oracle he overlaid with gold. And within the oracles he made 2 cherubims of olive wood. So in the Holy of Holies, and you notice that he made chains. He made chains overlaid with gold, and it says to set about to a partition, which is the gold. He overlaid a partition with gold. He overlaid it with gold, and at the uttermost part of the room, and he put chains. Let me see. And it also says, and the oracles he prepared in the house within, and he set there arks of the covenant of the Lord, and the oracle's forepart was 20 cubits in length and breadth in the heights, and overlaid it with pure gold, and covered the altar, which was cedar, and the ark of the covenant was acacia wood. And Solomon overlaid the house within the pure gold, and made partitions by chains of gold before the oracle, chains of gold before the oracle, and overlaid it with gold. And the whole house he overlaid with gold, and he had finished the house, the whole altar, that was by the oracle he overlaid the gold. And he within the oracle he made 2 cherubims of olive trees, each 10 cubits high. So the oracles, which was within the Holy of Holies, was incorporated within the breastplate, because it says in uh, let's see, Exodus 28, and it says, because there's got to be relationship. The Ark of the Covenant is God's throne. He sits between the cherubims, which is in the mercy seat, overlaid with gold. And then there's chains that are set around it to protect it so no one passes over it. There is like a fence that you don't come near the ark. You don't come near the ark. Even the priest, the Aaronic priest, do not come or touch the sacred things of God, especially when they're in operation, because not only are they lively and they speak and they hold the testimony of the presence of God, and they're powerful within itself. They're powerful, but when you have the presence of God standing in the middle of it, it intensifies. So they must stay back, because judgment would strike. So there, he put in these uh, guard posts, basically chains, fenced it in, securing it so no one passes that fence or passes that gate. But you would also see that also in the because we're still talking about the garments and the breastplate, and within the breastplate, because this thing are lively. It's lively. It's within the operation of the priest that bears the breastplate. Their temples didn't become alive until later, until the time of Reformation, but this is signifying that the Holy Spirit would abide within human, and they would become lively stones, and they would be housed in flesh, and but with deep within their soul would be these lively stones, this power within, this mighty power within. And it has to be guarded and fenced in. It has to be under protection. The power of God rested upon the apostles to the degree that they were so full of his presence that they raised the dead. The lame were healed. They speak in the power and the boldness of God. They were able to endure hardship and persecution and pain through this presence that abided with him, a lively presence that made its abode within them. They were no longer working in their human form. Supernatural manifestations, lively presence, a lively stone, built in one stone, which is Messiah. So they became this breastplate became something that was built within the flesh, because you got the harbigen, which I said it was a corset of defense. It was like a armor, and then you got the breastplate. So that God built within these garments defense mechanisms, warlike material, protective guard within these artifacts, which signifying that human temples would bear the same garment that would cover their soul, that would cover their bodies, that would cover their hearts, the innermost sanctuary. And it would pair. See, it's a connection, because the chains were identified, protected what was inside, but the chains that were surrounding this ephod and this breastplate was also this the guardians, or the protection. And it says this, and it says, and the stone shall be with the names of the children of Israel, starting in the 21st verse. Israel, 12 according to their names, like an engravement of a signet ring, like a sign, make them binding, legal. It's legal terminology, signing off that these things were set in stone, and nothing was going to waver or vary from the will of God to ordain a house of God. And humans were going to be the end result of this dwelling place. Everyone with the name shall be to the 12 tribes, this family, this children of God. And thou shalt make upon the breastplate chains at the ends of the wreath, works of pure gold. And there shall make upon the breastplate 2 rings of gold. And thou shalt put the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. And thou shalt put 2 wreath chains of gold in the 2 rings, which are the ends of the breastplate. And the other 2 ends of the 2 wreaths chains thou shalt fasten in the 2 ouches, which are above the shoulders. Put on the shoulders piecing of the ephod before it. So you've got chains on the corners, and on the thing, that these things are fastened together. They're unified, bound together, is a binding. All of the materials, it's this word will not return void. It's binding, it's legal, it's lively, it's connected, it's interwoven. And these wreaths were chains of gold. Them wreaths were made out of bows, or limbs, or stems, earthly wood or stems. And the bow, which is the bow of heaven, which Joseph, his bow would go to the tops of the heavens. And these things were signifying this fruitfulness. It's fruitful. The bows were like for like a vine. What did Jesus says? I am the vine. You are the branches. They were made out of vines, branches. They were overlaid with gold, and they were put into these rings. They were inserted into these rings, and these bows were held together, held the breastplate and the ephod, and pressed against the garments, and connected at the shoulders, which is Joseph, which had the signatures, engravings of the 12 tribes of Israel. Legally, he owns, he's the head of all 12, he's the head above, and the face of God, the suffering servant, who was in the Bible, like I just read, in irons. He was in captivity until God was able to release him, proved him, and he became proven servant. Joseph ben was suffering servant. Ben Joseph, the son of the suffering, the son locked in chains, was under bondage of this world, was under Egyptian captivity and slavery, which tied in knots by the world, the known world, put in a cell, and shackled together. But God said, do not touch my anointed or do my prophets no harm. My called out ones, I will take vengeance. He broke the bonds of Egypt, the Egyptians, the slavery of Egyptians, and he became the bow, the bow. This fruitful, and this is why Ephraim means fruitfulness, being fruitful. He became the bow, which in Messiah, a fruitful bow by the well, branches running over the wall. This is why Jesus is the root of Jesse. He is the bow or the branch. The branch. The branch. The branch, the bow that inherited all of it. And in that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth excellent, and the comely for them that are escaped of Israel, out of shackles, out of the captivity, out of bondage, will he deliver his people out of slavery. It says in Isaiah 11:4, and there shall come forth a root out of the stem. These were what these wreaths were. They were made of stems of Jesse, which means possession, taking from one possessor to another. And branch shall grow out of the root. A branch. And then Satan, in contrast, is the abominable branch. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, as a raiment that those that are slain thrust through the sword, going to the stones of the pit. Stones of the pit. His imitation, his counterfeit, as a carcass trodden underfoot. So there is a righteous bow, and then there is a profane bow. There is a impostor. And so there's an abominable bow, which is taking these things and the oracles of God and usurping them and making them into lively stones, but they were lively through the possession of demonic entities, not in accordance to the Holy Spirit, because everything is done away in Christ, but the energy concepts and principles are still lies within these artifacts. That's why God judges duplication. He says not to duplicate it, not to fashion. It has to be precisely like heaven. Pattern. If it's not, it is corrupt and it's given over to the kingdom of darkness. So this is why the chains, this wreath is this branch. It's this bow. It's God. He is the branch. We are. He is the vine. Abide in me. See, he plugged into these rings, which are like portals, four corners upon the vestige of the priest. These rings representing Messiah as this door, this portal. And you abide in me, and I abide in you. And the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except that it abides in the vine. No man can ye except abide in me. Let's go. It says, I am the true vine, that wreath, and my Father is the husbandman. He's the one that sits in this, into this holy of holy place, and I sit as Panin in front of him as Melchizedek high priest, and the chains that lock around him are I have the same vestige of chains that lock around me, and I cannot be touched, and neither so can he. And we are endowed or in the power of gold, which is also an energetic property, which intensifies, and then it expresses outwardly. That's how it works. He expressed those things that are in him. So these chains is the Father to the Son. No one can come to the Father but by the Son. And this is this locking into place. He stands as the high priest in the face of God at that incense offering, and his chains lock into his chains. They connect, and no one can get to the Father but by him. And they are secured, just like Solomon secured the ark, so is Christ secured within these vestige, tightly fitted as priest, king, and priest, and we are his representative branches. It says, abide in me and I in you, and the branch cannot bear fruit of itself. We are fruitful because the female part, the female is the ring. It is the opening. It's the vavo. It is this where the seed abides, where it produces fruit. The vine is inserted into the vavo, or the circle, or the round place of these of the garments, of the circles, opening portals, and this is how it's interjected within the ecclesia or the church. The power is interjected through female counterparts, through the church, the ecclesia, Jerusalem, the earth, portals, and these are the rings. 2 rings of gold shall be put 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. These are portals, female coupling that wreath. It's a coupling of that wreath to bind everything and to make it fruitful, to reproduce after itself. It's a male and female coupling. Binary. I said binary. Its definition, it means male and female coupling. One, which is binary. They're not the. It is a coupling of male and female, which is the language of today, which is a coupling, which language is either a feminine noun or a masculine noun. It's gender. It's gender. When you look at the Hebrew language, you look at Strong's, they'll tell you it's a feminine noun. It will tell you it's feminine or it's masculine. It will show its gender, where its origin. It's either female or masculine. But when it's coupled together in one body, it becomes binary. Binary. A binary to the degree of androgynous, when it flows together as one in the same body. This is hermaphrodite or androgynous or Baphomet. They're both male and female. The traditions are said that Adam was both male and female. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that terminology. Now, Adam was taken out of Adam by bone extraction, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Not that he was ever female. It was through the DNA was he made, that God made woman separate from man, own body, own soul, own spirit. Took the DNA, the genetic readings, because DNA is just something that is chromosomes, which is identifies you either male or female, Y chromosome, X chromosomes, and it's just and it tells you what color your eyes are, your color. It's a reading. You read it. It's data. It's data. It's placed within the body, but it's your own identification of data of all that you represent outwardly. Inwardly, you carry a DNA. Your parents carry a DNA that is signed off, or that is by God, of your prototype. You're a prototype. This is you're you're unique. You're one of the one and unique individual. No one carries the same characteristics, nature, and attitude and personality just like you. God made everyone as an individual, coming from this same structure of DNA, but the reading of both the male and the female coupling together to create an offspring, taking the readings of both genetic genetic resources and reading them and implementing them into offsprings. But that offspring has its own characteristics and identification, and identical DNA that is only subject to that person, not anyone else carries it. It's like your fingerprints. No one has. That's why they can use fingerprints or eye irises, or even DNA samples to identify you as being the only carrier of this data that has been inscribed within humanity, within each soul, or within each human body. That makes you unique and precisely formed and precision. The Bible says, I formed you in the womb. I precisely created you for this and that. And so he has formed us and fashioned us through the DNA and the chromosomes. So it's a binary reading to make offsprings. So it's a coupling. And so binary language, it's just data. It's all it is, data, male and female, coupled together, making binary language, but is housed in one A-frame, one computing system, which is being transported back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, which is androgynous. It is it's a language that is houses both male and female. This is why Satan can attach himself to these things, numbers, letters, because they become binding. They become binding, and they become contaminated, because God made male and female. Made he them, not one. Made thee them, one, male and female. Made thee them. He didn't make them. He made them to become a cod, or one, or unified, but he didn't make them Yahid, which is one unit. He did not. He did not make them, Adam, one unit. And so when it's one unit, then it becomes a perverse, corrupt, and out of order, because this is not how God created. And so that's how Satan, he gets involved. And that's why all forms of sexuality is forbidden, because he made male and female, and then he made them to couple to make offspring, which is a life production, fruitfulness, to bear your fruit within the earth, your offsprings, your likeness, your image in the earth. You can't bear that in orifice that are not assigned to for reproduction. And so, and God doesn't create hermaphrodites, or whatever it is, or androgynous creatures, which some animals or insects are both sex, but the humankind are not. Human, the human nature, the human physiology is individual. They're individual that come together in unity to bring about a matrimony, a commitment of love to produce offspring. So this is why binary is the way that the binary language, it's confusion. It's confusion. Male and female are not housed in the same body. It's confusion. This is why God said, "Do not put on men, not to put on women apparel, and men not to put women not to put on men apparel, because it's confusion. You are not you're not to have sex outside of this ordained relationship, because it's confusion. It's confusion. You can't. You're not to have multiple partners, because it's confusion. It's confusion, and this is where Satan thrives. So this coupling of both the wreath, which represents the vine, which is made out of a bowl, which is Joseph, foreshadowing the Messiah. And it says, "If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit, so shall you be my disciples. As the Father hath loved me, so have I loved you. Continue in my love." So it's abiding. It says, let me go above. "If a man abides not in me, he is cast forth as a branch." See, we are to bear the fruit. We are to be fruitful, "and wither, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned." You must be fruitful. Let's get. I just want to get. "I am the vine, you are the branches, you abide in me, and I in him, and the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me you can do nothing." And everything that doesn't produce fruit does not bear the fruits of the. Now it's bearing the fruits of the Spirit. If you do not bear the fruits of the Spirit, then you become unfruitful and worthless, because God made everything to bear the fruit. And this heavenly breastplate with the rings and the bowl laid with gold, this is talking about heavenly being producing a heavenly offsprings, born of the Spirit, born of not it's not an earthly reproduction, it's a spiritual. This is why you got the lively stones. Got the lively stones. It says, "And thou shalt make upon the breastplate 2 rings of gold, and thou shalt have 2 rings of the 2 ends of the breastplate, and thou shalt put the 2 wreaths, which are the bow, which are made out of bows or branches or vines, the chains of gold, and these are the chains of gold in the 2 rings, which are on the ends of the breastplate at the end, and the 2 ends of the 2 wreath chains thou shalt fasten into the 2 ouches," which were the signing off of the children of Israel, which is a signature, which is a binding contract, which is legal terms by the Spirit. It's not easily broken. It will not be broken. He set these things in stone. He plated them with gold, and he signed off on these things. "And thou shalt make 2 rings of gold, and thou shalt put them upon the 2 ends of the breastplate in the borders thereof, which is the side of the ephod inwardly." So they're inward. They're not exposed. In the ephod, which is the garment. It's not on the breastplate, it's on the garment itself of the multicolor, which is the house of God, the children of God, and the house of God, which is connected with Jacob, Yaakov, which is this prince who rules with God. So all of these things are connected to the prince, the children, the women, the family are all in connection to the prince. "And thou shalt make 2 rings of gold, and thou shalt put them upon the 2 ends of the breastplate." and the borders thereof, which is in the side of the ephod inwardly, and the 2 other rings of gold thou shalt make, and shalt put them in the 2 sides of the ephod underneath, towards the forefront. Therefore, over against the other couplings, see coupling, male and female, thereof, above this curious girdle of the ephod, which is the belt, which is this belt, or it's a sash or a strip of multicolored fabric that is a sash of some sort that ties and holds these things. Gird your loins, or gird them, this whole thing upward, uprightness, that things don't fall, and everything is in perfect order. Not everything is in perfect arrangement, because the sash should be on your waist, and it holds or girds up or holds up this family by the Messiah. And with these rings, and with the wreaths, which are the chains made out of bows or vines, laid out, overlaid with gold, and are tied together, tightly fitted together, in the bonds of unity, in the bonds of love, in the bonds, unified, held together by the Spirit, by the lively oracles of God. By his word are ye held together. He holds all things by his word. This is what it says in Hebrews 2. He holds everything by his word. This is the gird yourself with truth. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And everything is held together by him, his whole family, held together in the presence of God, as God is also behind the veil, which the veil has been rent, which is also this glory of reflection being dispersed into the Messiah, or into the prince, that is dispersing to the children, and everything is held together tightly by these rings, the coupling of the family, the unity of the family, the bonds of love and unity. This is what the ephod is. It's love, and it's tightly fitted. And it says, and they shall bind the breastplate by the rings thereof upon the rings of the ephod, with the lace of blue, which is the sperma, which is the vine, which is that promised seed. It's the commandments. It's the word of God. It's patriarchal, through his seed bearing, spiritually and physically. Should the masculine should protect the feminine. The feminine reflects the glory of the masculine. So everything is laced together by the blue, and may above the courteous girdle, which is that sash, and they call it curious. I don't know why. I guess they don't understand it. And the ephod, and that the breastplate be not loose from the ephod. It has to be in perfect arrangement, precisely upon the priest's vestige and on his body, to connect everything together. Because it's within the heart, it's within the framework of the Ark of the Covenant. It is parallel with, if he's standing in between the incense offering and the Ark of the Covenant, it must parallel the image of the ark, and the image of the priest must be in perfect order, in perfect alignment, and those chains and all these things that surround the Ark of the Covenant, and the cherub on the mercy seat in the dwelling of his presence, must be in perfect order, in perfect unity, alignment. And so, and everything that must be held together. Everything must be nothing slothful, nothing dragging behind, nothing loose. It is it because everything in the world is held tightly together by the framework of God. And this is the earth, this is the world, this is everything is held by the breath of his mouth and by the word of his testimony, by his debar, his word. And the word that came forth were the instructions of the tabernacle after the golden calf, I believe, incident, because God was going to make a kingdom of priests, but they forfeited it. And now the will, now his permissive will, was to make the tabernacles to foreshadow what they could have been in the wilderness. This is why it was 11 stage journey. It was 11 stages from Mount Sinai to the promised land, but because of disorder, disunity, and dysfunction, it became a 40-year judgment upon them. And Aaron shall bear, and so it says, it be a curious order of ephod, which is a multicolor, which is purple, blue, and scarlet, representing the house of Leah, house of Rachel, Jacob, Yaakov as this prince, Israel, and this house, the children on the breastplate, signing off of the 12 tribes of a perfect, which 12 means perfect, a perfect order, a perfect government, and a perfect system. Anything outside that system is imperfection, and God will reject. And Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Israel on the breastplate of the judgment upon his heart, and he goeth unto the holy place, most holy place, for a memorial before the Lord continually. And then you shall put in the breastplate a judgment of the Urim and the Thummim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart, which is this light of perfection, and the stone, I believe the onyx stone, which reminded them of the garnet and them being exiled. And so this stone, and then the stones on the shoulders were of onyx with the engraving of the 12 tribes, a signature of the family of God. And it's always this dark stone. And tradition states that the 10 Commandments, the oracles of God, were and what he writ with his finger were on sapphire stones. This was the foundation. It was heavenly. It's a heavenly foundation. But he told Moses to go up. He told him to go up, and he was going, and after Moses atoned for the children of Israel, stood in place of God's wrath, and judgment took place. I believe 3,000 men died that day, and after 40 days of judgment and justice, God called him up and for another 40 days, and so this is all about the Olam, 80 days Olam. It's now about the eternal. They forfeited. Now this would be given to Moses, but now they would be under a tutor. They would be under the law of Moses. And those stones, he said, write these things upon. Now you write these things upon. Now how did Moses write these stones on as the 10 Commandments, and he put them upon the tablets within the ark. I mean, it wasn't on parchment, but he said you write these things. And you have to think, how did he write these things? How did they convey? And you have to understand that there was no way of being able to just chisel them into place. This was supernatural. And I really believe when he said that you write these, he was indicating something. Let's go. He was indicating something more than just him pinning these things down upon. And the Lord said unto Moses, write this memorial in the book. It says, oh yeah, and it says, and the Lord said unto Moses, in Exodus 34:1, hewn the 2 tablets of stone, like unto the first. The first were provided by heaven, and I will write upon these tables the words. These were the first stones. Upon these tablets, the words, and were the first tablets which thou breakest. So the Lord said, I will write upon them, and I will write. And then it says, and the Lord said unto Moses, write thou these words, for after the tenor of these words I have made a covenant with thee and with Israel. So there are definitely 2 plays of words. He said, take these stones that I have given you, and I will write upon them. But then he said, then you will write upon these the tenors. And because they no longer became, they were not heavenly, they became earthly. And it says, tenors means speech, spoken, talk. He spoke these things as the Lord. The Lord gave him the 10 commandments, spoke it to the hearing of the people. He spoke it to the hearing of the people, and they refused. They were frightened. Their flesh couldn't handle it. But this time, God said, I will write them, but you would be the tenor, the one that would speak this. I'm going to use you as the mediator to write, because now, instead of me being the mediator, instead of me being in their presence, instead of them having a relationship with me and going towards me, instead of them being a kingdom of priests, and me endowing them with the power and the Spirit to represent me, now I'm going to lay it all upon you, Moses. I'm going to lay it upon you. And I'm going to write these things, but not in accordance to my words. They're going to be your words. You're going to be the debar, the teacher. And you're going to speak them out. And then when you speak them, I will write them. It's a reverse. Because now he put the authority within Moses. He put this attribute and nature and divine word within his mouth to be able to speak in accordance on God's behalf, or miraculous. He reverted, because Moses became a son. He atoned. He stood in the gap. He laid his life down. He showed himself faithful. God said, I speak to him mouth to mouth. And now the commandments no longer became God's commandments. They became Moses' commandments, and he spoke them, and he became the facilitator and the authorized user and authority figure of the commandments. This is why they are not the law of God. They're the law of Moses. He signed off on them. He signified them. They were his. They were under Moses. They were no longer under God, because that eternal covenant of Abraham, which was written on sapphire stone, which came from heaven, was broken, shattered. They refused the voice coming from the mountain. They rejected him, but they didn't refuse Moses, and Moses became this godlike status. He became in place of God. he became the one that the law was going to be affiliated with, facilitated with. He would be the authorized representative, and he would be the authorized user. Just like if you come in, I it was he was the Melchizedek. He's the authorized, opening the door to their salvation, their redemptions, to their miracles. He was the so when they came in the name of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and unto Moses, the law of Moses. He became their supervisor, their governor, the administrator, the order in which they would fall under, just like we fall under Messiah Christ. And his words, instead of being God's words speaking into him, it would be Moses' words. And God wrote within these stones the words of Moses. The words of Moses, which were the same words that were spoken at Mount Sinai, who they reject. They rejected God. And so God put them and fenced them under the law of Moses, and gave them the commandments of and the tabernacle and put them under a tutor. This is why this was no longer about a relationship. Now this became about justice. It provokes, just like I read, the wrath of God, the law, because and then the book of the laws, which was a witness against him, was also initiated in Deuteronomy, outside the ark, as a witness against them, of their flesh, of their rebellion, of their obstinance. So these stones, in my opinion, and there's really no words, or anything clarifying, but I believe these stones were black. Black. They were black stones. Darkness, obstinance, darkness. They were no longer transparent, translucent, reflect the light of the image of the Almighty, of his radiance. Now they became stones of darkness, stones of black, and stones of flesh, because it's all about the flesh and the purifying of the flesh. It's all about exile. It's all about the stones, the darkened hearts, stiff-necked, obstinate people, rebellion. And God took black stones and he wrote and engraved his commandments, and now they invoked his wrath. They invoked his justice. No longer is mercy being implemented, justice is being exercised, because they rejected God and they preferred a man over God, a human being over him, to lord over them and to be their mediator. And so to me, these stones were black. They were black stones. And this also could represent the Urim, the black stones. The stones that were in their heart. They were of earthly stones. They were of black stones. And they had the signs and the written things of the law. And they were put and hidden in the ark as a testimony, and a written testimony on the outside, and that brought the blessings and the cursings, and which invoked most of the cursings than they did blessings throughout the ages and centuries. So even though they became lively stones, the Urim and the Thummim are become lively stones, oracles of light and darkness, good and evil, and the condition of man's rebellion and rejection of God Almighty. That's what it signifies. You choose man, you choose Moses, you choose to deal with him than rather to deal with me on a personal level. And so these stones become, this is your heart. This is why it becomes darkened. Your mind, your conscience becomes darkened. They wax cold. What's cold? Cold is dark. It's black. It's It's bitterness, it's hardship, it's cold. And so, and this is the rebellious, showing the obstinate and rebellious nature of man to do evil, to do evil, and to reject God and righteousness and orderly things. They rather be in rebellion than to obey God. They rather live in darkness. It says, the Bible says, men love darkness rather than light because their deeds are evil. And so this is all in connection to those stones that were put are written, and the stones that were on there were because of the hardship and bondages of Egypt was laid upon them, and it was laid upon Joseph, and it was laid upon the children of Israel, and God freed them and brought them into from Egypt to Mount Sinai, but they still refused him. They still refused the materials of heaven and the life of heaven. They rather enjoy the pleasures of Egypt. They rather pleasures of sin. They rather have this dark heart than to be in perfection and unity with God. And this is why the stones are in relationship to the stones that Moses, he spoke them. Lively oracles. They become cursed. Cursed of every man that doth not everything in the law. Cursed. They are not blessed. They're cursed because they couldn't keep the law. And it says, and he there with the Lord there 40 days and 40 nights. Judgment, which is represents 40 days and 40 nights. They'd rather be with the fallen than to be with God. Judgment, 40 days is justice and judgment. He did neither eat or drink nor eat water. And he wrote upon the tablets the words of the covenant and the 10 commandments. God wrote the first stones on eternal stones with the finger of God, and they were ordained to be a kingdom of peace, a heavenly connection, a heavenly presence would abide with them. This is why it says, but ye are come unto Mount Zion, Hebrews 12:22, and unto the city of the living God, unto a heavenly Jerusalem, and unto an innumerable company of angels, to the general assembly of the firstborn, this the firstborn, which are written in heaven, and to God the judge of all, and to the spirit of just men made perfect, and to Jesus. He's took what he wrote and they rejected and put them within his son as mediator, as a new covenant, a blood of sprinkle that speaketh better things than Abel, which means Abel is all about vengeance, all about justice, all about God's wrath. That's what the stones of Moses were. They were dark and they invoked God's wrath because they were no more of the heavenly order or the heavenly presence. They became earthly, dark, and lively, coupled with demonic presence, outside of doing everything in perfect order with God. That's how he can usurp them. That's how he can grab them, because it's either blessings or curses. There is no in between. And our imperfections can't always uphold to their perfectionist that lies within God. It says in Romans 4:18, because the law worketh wrath. For where there was no law during the time of Abraham, there was no transgression. There was no imputing of justice and judgment. Mercy and forbearance was God's nature. But after the golden calf and after they refused him, those bright sapphire stones made of heaven reflect the power of God. His glory now became darkened, and a reminder of the fall, reminder of the obstinate and rebellion nature of man that invokes God's justice and wrath. And on that I'm going to end.